Welcome to another episode of the Global Investors Podcast. I'm your host, Charles Carillo. Today we have Dan Rivers. He has nearly 20 years of real estate experience and is the founder of Synergy Stays, a short-term rental revenue management company that helps investors and property management companies maximize profitability. Having facilitated transactions totaling over $100 million, Dan has honed his skills in analyzing deals, identifying market trends, creating value-add opportunities, and negotiating contracts for both buyers and sellers. Dan, thank you so much for coming on the show today.
I appreciate you having me, Charles. Thank you. I'm excited.
So being in so many different facets of real estate investing, can you tell us a little bit about yourself prior to kind of getting inside real estate investing and launching Synergy Stays?
Yeah. It's funny. My story started, I was 24 years old working at a bank in Florida. I'm from Boston. Happened to move to Florida after college, working at a bank, and I did a loan for this guy. And it was pretty cool. And I did this loan, and I wasn't sure where I was going to go with my life. And he's like, after I was done with the loan, he's like, you did a really good job with this. Do you want to come work for me? And I said, what is that? And he's like, we property management. We manage large scale like condos and HOAs on the beach down in Tampa area. And I'm like 24 years old. I'm like, sure. I didn't even know what that meant, but I'm like, sure, I'll do it. That sounds fun. All I remember is first day on the job, they were like, here's 16 properties, about 600 units worth, hundreds of millions of dollars. Good luck.
Thrown right in.
Yeah. Trial by fire. So honestly, that was my start of my real estate journey. And I owe where I'm at today because of that, because I had to learn about contracts, insurance, HOA, documents and bylaws, and how to not only all that. If you've ever lived in an HOA, those boards sometimes can be a little,
especially in Florida, man.
So I had to really get used to like managing people and getting us to stay on task to achieve the goals that we were going for. So a lot of different skills came from that. And I did that until about 2017, moved to Charleston in 2018 with my wife, got my real estate sales license, sold over 400, properties over the last 8-9 years and flipped, have some buy and hold, short-term rentals, kind of did everything from then on. Yep.
Oh, that's great. Yeah. The one thing with property management, as much as I understand it's not the most best use of people's time, but if you really want to learn real estate or especially residential real estate investing, I mean, managing properties, whether it be 10 units or like you, 600 units, whatever it might be, or being involved with the process, the amount of information it's kind of like almost being an entrepreneur where you're wearing so many different hats and you have to know a little bit about accounting, a little bit about marketing, a little bit, all these different things. And you really learn how the business goes because somebody behind an Excel spreadsheet doesn't know how it works when you're talking to tenants or about how, about somebody comes in that can't pay rent on time and how you have to work that situation where you can make everything run smoothly and, keep them in their unit, but also collect their rent. You know what I mean? So it's a business that gives you a really good overview, in-depth overview of really what the business actually entails, because I think the other parts of the business don't do that as well. Oh,
100%. I mean, you learn so many things when you're in the midst of managing property. And listen, it doesn't pay well. And it's a thankless, job
yeah,
too.
Oh yeah, that's for sure.
The knowledge, like you were saying, the knowledge is all there. Like I had to learn insurance. I understand properly insurance, like ordinance and law. A lot of people may not know what that is, but when you're managing big, large scale properties that are 20, 30 years old, you need to know certain insurance policy language to make sure that you're properly covered, God forbid there's a major loss. So just kind of not being an expert in every area, but understanding each and every area enough that I'm protecting my client's greatest asset.
Yeah, because they're coming to you. I mean, I think answering calls, as everybody says, 3 a.m. for the toilet or whatever is a portion of property management, but there's a large portion of it is you're paying for someone's expertise in an area, and then also just their expertise to assist you in managing that property, right? Like what you should do. How many times I've leaned on property managers about what is good pricing for CapEx projects, or what is this, or like, all these different things that if someone didn't have as many units as that property manager, this is what I'm relying on you for to tell me, yes, this is the right price. This is a good, fair price if they do this, and make sure you do this and that, and like cover all your bases. I mean, that's the part that I don't think people really understand, that never really had a property manager before. And they just go, oh, I'm going to self-manage myself. I can do the calls myself or whatever. And there's a huge different piece of like the advising that's never really sold, I think, by property managers.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. Because we've lived it. We've done it. We've dealt with all the issues, and you're right. We can just like any expertise, you're not paying a doctor necessarily for the 15 minutes they look at you. You're paying a doctor for the, all those years of experience to understand and diagnose you a lot quicker. I mean, it's the same thing in all these industries. I mean, I think I got away from that. And I think a lot of people got away from, it's easy to try to do everything and be good at everything, but to really be great in certain areas is absolutely amazing. And I think that's why you work with experts like a property manager like that. People who are great in their area can really add a ton of value. The problem is there's so many people who are okay or good that they tarnish the great ones and the value that they can add.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. So let's talk about kind of what you're doing today. What does your firm Synergy Stays do?
Yeah, so I like to consider us a revenue optimization partner with people, because at the end of the day, when you say revenue management, it is the case. We basically, in a nutshell, we come in, we look at your property overall. We help make sure it's optimized. The search rankings are there. It's searchable on Airbnb, VRBO. And then we're optimizing your pricing. And then there's a lot of different levers that we pull accordingly. But we like to consider ourselves partners there, because a lot of, the industry standard is, handle your pricing. Well, that's great. But if you price your property well, but you're not advertising to the right people, or you're not searchable, like what good is it pricing your property at a good point if you're not, getting booked? So we come in as your partner. We take a look at your property. We give you some advice that we're not going to touch, certain things like we're not taking your photography, but if you don't have professional photography, or there's certain other things like we've seen before, someone hires us and they talk, they have a hot tub. I don't see any pictures of it and they're not really advertising it properly. The title of their property isn't, really standing out. It's like the Magnolia House rather than, Sleeps 10 with a hot tub with a mountain view. Like that's a better title. It sounds weird, but it's a better title because that's going to get you more bookings. So we come in and we just come as your partner and help you make sure that you're squeezing as much money possible out of your short-term rental and optimizing it.
So Dan, what would you say is kind of the current state of the short-term rental business today?
Yeah, I would say just like a lot of different things that people got involved with. We all know wholesaling. We know Burr method. We we all, multifamily, everything was hot at one point, and anybody can make money in pretty much all those areas when it was hot. And now we're seeing that same effect with short-term rentals as any other asset class. You need to go all in and be an expert in order to succeed at short-term rentals. It's the same thing in pretty much every other asset class that we're talking about in real estate. And, 4 or 5 years ago, anybody could buy any property, make it a short-term rental and make revenue. Well, now there's a big difference. Like, are you an accommodation? Or are you more of an experience? And the ones that are like more luxury experiences are doing really well. The people who are at accommodation who just threw something together and kind of made it a short-term rental because it was a good investment deal are the ones that are struggling. So the market right now is kind of like that what did I want to say? V-shaped. It's like the luxury ones are doing really well. Those accommodations that are kind of half-assing it, for lack of better words, are struggling right now. So my advice when it comes to the short-term rental market, if it's something you want to get into, it is a great asset class if it's done well. Just make sure that you do it well. Make sure you buy the right property. Make sure that you really understand the competition and not even just what you have to do with the property, but if you're in an area where you have to have a certain, you want to have a mountain view, or if you're in an area where you want to be walkable to downtown, where that could be $20,000, $30,000, $40,000 more than something that's not walkable to downtown. Like, do the extensive research and make sure you're buying the right property, and then have the cash to put the right amenities and features into that property to hit the goals that you're going for. You can't wing it these days.
Yeah, I think that V analogy that you use is really well, because 10 years ago when I was going to Airbnbs, it would just be like anything. You know what I mean? It was just, and you're paying so little for it compared to hotels that it was, you kind of may do whatever. And I think sometime in the last few years, it's changed where you have a lot of subpar ones, but you have some really nice ones. We just stayed at one a couple weeks back. And the thing was that you can really tell the difference of people that have bought it and they put a lot of money into it, and they've really like almost brought in like an interior designer to really make this property a something very unique that you can't get anywhere else.
Yeah, and honestly, a lot of people are. I just came from a mastermind a couple weeks ago. This guy that's doing really well in short-term rental world, and most of his people use designers when they're doing their short-term rentals, and they're doing them really well. And that's the other key factor. Just like any other asset class, I always tell people the way you're going to be the most successful is short-term rentals is a business. It's not. It is real estate, but it's a business, and you have to keep up the property management. You have to have a great guest experience, sounds like you had. You have to focus on your revenue management. And then if you have a really higher end property, you also need to incorporate marketing. So anybody who's buying the short-term rental in the business should understand all those areas, but they only have to be great at one and then hire people who are great at the other areas. So if you're really great at the revenue management side, you don't need someone like us. You need to hire someone that can help out with the experience and someone who can help out with the marketing. And if you're great on the experience side, well, then you should be working with a revenue manager and a marketing expert. And those are the people we're seeing truly stand above and produce a great product and great revenue if they follow that strategy.
And you got to really bring that hospitality into make it part of the business. So it's really like two businesses on top of each other. Kind of like when people are like retirement homes. It's the same kind of thing. I think you have real estate and then you also have this hospitality type business, additional business as part of it. So you're running two businesses at the same time, not just a real estate investor.
Correct. Yeah. And if people think of it that way, then at the end of the day, you're running it as a business, not as an emotional impulse buy. Those are the other ones that we see that struggle. We talk about the market a little bit. People who are struggling are like, they can't get over, well, 2 years ago, I would never go under $200 a night. Now you're telling me I got to get to 180. Well, if you're at 180 a night, but you can get a 5-night booking versus a 2-night booking at 200, what would you rather? Because guess what? It's only one cleaning fee. Your utility bill is not going to be much different. And yet, so it's pretty much 90% extra cash right in your pocket by having that longer booking, a little bit less. So it's like, you got to take that emotional component out of it, look at it as a business, treat it as a business, and you'll succeed.
Do you have money sitting in the stock market and you're worried about it? Or worse, you have money sitting at the bank, not keeping up with inflation? My name is Charles Carillo, founder and managing partner of Harborside Partners. And since 2006, I've been investing my money and my family's money into income-producing properties. These are real assets, real properties with real addresses that produce real cash flow. At Harborside Partners, we provide passive investors who love real estate with a turnkey investing solution. If you want to put your money to work in real estate but can't find deals, don't have the time to get funding, and the last thing that productive people want to do is manage real estate. We find the deals, we fund the deals, and we manage the tenants, the termites, and the properties. Partner with us at investwithharborside.com. That's investwithharborside.com. Go to investwithharborside.com. If you love real estate, you like the idea of passive income, and believe that income-producing properties will appreciate over time, go to investwithharborside.com. That's investwithharborside.com.
What are some of the things when you take over a property, like you just said, obviously if you're doing it from the beginning, you're going to look at probably take a whole different stance on everything within the property and finding the property, the location of it. But if you take over a property, what are some normal things that would help that STR owner be more successful immediately? What are some small tweaks that you typically review and typically make initially with new clients you've brought on?
Yeah. So the first thing we'll do is check the properties. We'll take a look at optimizing the listing, whether that means photo order might just need to be a little bit of adjusted, or new photos may be needed. Like I said, the title. One of the biggest things that I can give a tip right now that I think a lot of people miss is the amenities. And I don't mean you have to have an in-ground pool. Airbnb has a lot of amenities that you could check off. The more you check off, the better it's going to help with your algorithm. So if you're kid-friendly, I think there's 12 or 13 different items to be kid-friendly. Check off all those 12 or 13 items. Get every single one of those items if you can, obviously within budget, but you're only talking, I think, on that category, a few $100. And now you truly are kid-friendly. And let me tell you why that matters even more now. We love AI. Everybody always talks AI. I'm not going to dive deep into AI, but I will tell you Airbnb now has a new feature. Rather than go in and you click, I want something that's kid-friendly with the pool with this. You can go in and basically talk to it and say, I want something in a safe neighborhood that's kid-friendly, that has a great view, and like you basically just kind of describe your experience you're looking for rather than checking boxes. And now it's going to comb listings, finding that perfect listing for that person. So if you're kid friendly, you're checking off all those amenities. You mention it a few times in your listing because you got to realize AI is scraping the description. It's scraping the pictures. It's scraping the amenity list. So make sure your listing is complete and thorough. If you have a hot tub, you maybe mention it 1 or 2 times in the description. Make sure it's in pictures. Make sure it's clicked on the amenity. Make sure that you're truly capturing all your property's great details in every single area so that it can pick it up and it helps you in the algorithm. So that's one of the first things we do. And then we also, real quick, is we will look to see where their search rankings are. Because if they're on page like 4 or 5 at Airbnb, We want to figure out why that is, make some adjustments, A/B tests, get them back up to page 1 and 2 so that they have a higher probability of booking in their proper booking window for a higher average daily rate. And then from there, then we start looking at their pricing, short-term pricing, far-out pricing, strategy, and then we'll implement strategies based on what we're seeing. Do they have a lot of weekdays open? Do they have a lot of availability over the next 30 or 45 days? Are they booked up and they're not available till 60 or 90 days? What is their booking window? Is their booking window 30 days, which a lot of properties are, or is it more like 60 or 90 because they're a bigger property and more of a resort style property? So we're looking at all these things to figure out what's the best strategy to implement for that property at that time.
Yeah, well, that makes perfect sense. There's one thing, especially when I'm traveling internationally, and you'll see some bookings do it, is they'll do like a internet speed test. And in the United States, our internet's pretty fast in most places. I think some parts, especially in parts of Europe, thick wall, stuff like that, you don't know what your actual Wi-Fi is going to be. So having that screenshot, like small stuff like that, I have found, and you're like, okay, like, you know what I mean? Especially if you're traveling and you're going to be working the same time, or you're traveling with family that's going to be working, then it's something where like, it's a really important thing, just small little tweaks or added things to it when people are really, because if you're spending if you're doing one night, I'm not going to do a thorough check on something, or 2 nights, whatever it is. But if you're spending like 2 weeks somewhere, I mean, you're going to do an extremely thorough review on, I'm going to know everything on that listing. You know what I mean? Before I book it.
Yeah. And I think that's another thing that I think anybody listening that has a short-term rental or wants to have one, I think this is important, is to know your avatar and speak to that avatar. And, that guest avatar. And I know that sounds small and silly and like, of course I do. But so many times what we try to do in life, because I know I do it, is you try to talk to everybody and appeal to everybody. And when it comes to a short-term rental, you don't have to do that. You're talking, if you can book 300 nights in a year, that's great. If your average length of stay is 3 nights, you need 100 people a year. So you need to talk to 100 people that really want your home. So niching down and really grabbing that avatar's attention is important. So if you want to be a place that people can get away to and have a co-working spot, absolutely. You need to dive deep and make sure that you're really showing off every area of that property being work friendly. If you're kid friendly, if you're, the experience, whatever it is, figure out your avatar and then build that short-term rental towards that avatar, and making sure that you're talking about it. You have the pictures about it, the amenities for it, and that really stands out. And that's another way that you'll be able to beat the competition.
One thing you mentioned before about marketing, and I guess it's on platform and off platform, which are both interesting to me. With on platform, like you were saying, getting up to page 1 or 2, what are typical tweaks that you're making other than, I guess, just the title and checking off some more boxes that would probably make it more amenity friendly and a better, more likable, let's say, property? What are some other things that you found when during that A/B testing that have really popped those people up into 1 and 2 pages?
Yeah, that's a great question. A lot of times it's picture order, description, title, but there's also other things that can help out with the algorithm in general. Believe it or not, your cancellation policy is going to help you out. Airbnb basically came out at the end of last year and said, hey, a looser cancellation policy is going to help you out with the algorithm, without actually saying that. So we've seen a non-pricing lever to pull is to, within your comfort, loosen maybe you're on strict. You want to go a little bit more flexible when it comes to your cancellation policy. We've seen that make a vastly better, big difference on people. Another thing that we've done quite a bit, and it's all within comfort level in different times of years and different types of properties. If you have a beach property, you may have a 7-night minimum in the middle of the nice season, but the average property, especially in off seasons and everything, you might want to take your minimum length of stay. We've seen people have like 4 nights, and we've gone to them and be like, hey, trust us, we're going to bring it down to 2 nights, but we're going to be doing some length of stay discounts and some merchandising to really capture the human behavior of wanting to book your place for longer. And we end up growing their length of stay by doing so. And you get more eyes on it, because when you have a 4-night minimum stay and someone's searching for 2, you're missing out on those people, even though they may book 4 nights if you entice them properly. So those are some of the levers that people could pull to help operate more efficiently.
What do you do, or do you do anything for off-site marketing? And what type of properties require that? And what are some of the marketing tactics, strategies that you've utilized?
Yeah, so we do more of like the SEO and the marketing on the platforms. That's where we really excel. We don't. We kind of talked about this a little bit earlier on. Like, we used to be a full service property management company. We're not anymore. We just do revenue management. So we understand all facets of the business. However, we are great at driving revenue and pricing your property properly. That is what we are great at, and making sure we're merchandising properly, making sure we're maximizing this revenue opportunity. Either we're doing it or we're advising you on ways that you can do it yourself. Not on the pricing side, but on the non-pricing side, on the operational side that can actually help you when it comes to pricing and driving revenue. So we don't do the marketing like a social, like a direct booking website. We don't create that. We'll work off that. Any OTAs that you have, we will work with them. But those outside marketing, those are experts there. Like, do you have a mega property that like there's one property, was talking to someone the other day, there's a property down in Miami where celebrities book that property to shoot rap videos. Like you want social media, like influencers, you want that different marketing channel, get very creative there to make sure that you're capturing that right avatar to book that property. That's not what we're going to do. We're going to make sure it's priced well. So when it's booked, you're booking it at the most optimal pricing for it, that night.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. We had someone on the show about a year ago, and luxury short-term rentals in only a handful of places throughout the world, and they had like a 6-bedroom farmhouse in Tuscany or something like this. And this is like stuff I see that would probably be better marketing off, you know what I mean, as well as on the platform, because it's so unique, you know what I mean? And there's going to be a specific buyer that's going to spend thousands of dollars a night to stay there for weeks at a time.
Oh yeah. The most successful people are using, the way I like to put it is obviously get the experience going first, and then you start working with the revenue management company. And then when you have those, do your marketing as well. And when you implement every step of those things, that's where you could really drive the urban. You're right. That Tuscany spot, you probably have your own Instagram page. You have you get followers, but like that is the type of property that needs that and can really, take revenue to the next level and beat what market comparisons are. So I want to stay there at the 6-bedroom in Tuscany.
I'll find it later in my notes. I'll have to find the episode and I will put it in the notes for the show. But you could look through and just see the workmanship, how well it was done. And you're just like, oh yeah, this is just like I imagine doing a project like that from the United States in Tuscany was quite the headache of managing that over there. But I imagine it's doing pretty well now. One of the things that, over the last few years with residential, we as multifamily investors, it has been difficult for us. And it looks like a lot of not so professional short-term rental investors too have been kind of weeded out, let's say, for lack of a better word. Where do you see it now? We talked about getting people into units. When you're in for that experience, what are some things that you would suggest people to have? You talked about amenities, but what other things, maybe small things that don't cost that much, that really increase it and make people give that 5-star review? Yeah,
I think one of the biggest things is communication, which I know it's getting better and better again with AI. People can communicate, but don't step away from the human touch. So like if you're using that AI for communication, that's great. You should want to over communicate, maybe give them that better experience. So like I've seen people where they have a house and there's a lot of bachelor or bachelorette parties, or maybe it's like, there's a few different types of groups that are going to go there, and they'll send out a text saying, hey, why are you visiting? And once you click that, they're going to send you an itinerary with suggestions of what you can do based on why you're going to that property. Like that stands out above and beyond. You're really trying to help them. I've also seen people, and this goes above and beyond, it's a little bit harder, but you take a video, the person's name, you take a quick text video and you text it over to them saying, hey, I'm really glad you're staying at my property. Just want to let you know if you have any issues at all, I want to make sure you have a 5-star experience. Like continue saying 5-star, send a lot of messages talking about 5-star, talking about how you want their experience to really stand out. Send that off to the person. Now they feel a personal connection to you. Not only are they going to be less apt to probably complain about a little issue, they're going to let you know right away. They're probably going to leave a better review because of it too. And those better reviews and those higher, more 5-star ratings you have is going to ultimately result in a lot more revenue, because I think it's 0.1 points off. So if you're 4.9 instead of a 5-star, it's about 10% in potential revenue. Now it doesn't necessarily continue on that trajectory, but it it does correlate directly to your revenue potential if you start getting below 4.8, 4.75 when it becomes to ratings. So that's another thing that I think people should be doing. Another thing, and I know this is not exactly what you asked, but I think these are good tips to help people out, are take all your reviews, throw them into AI, and ask it if there's anything you can do to improve your property or stand out better, or just be a better host, and listen to the suggestions. Especially the more you plug into, let's say it's ChatGPT, the more you take your property, its pictures, its experience, the avatar you want, throw all that stuff in there, and then throw your reviews and ask it that, it's going to help give you a few extra tips of your specific property and how you can make it a better experience for your avatar. So there's a few.
Yeah. No, that's a great idea. We've done something similar to that, where taking notes, AI notes of calls that we've had or people have had in our firm, and you put it in and they tell you, so when you're putting together almost like a video sales letter or something like that, all your FAQ, stuff that you weren't even thinking about, and now it gets answered. And when you're getting on the call with that client, with that potential investor, whatever it might be for your business, a lot of those questions are already answered. You're really just doing like a touch, and you know what I mean? It's you shorten it up, and it's pretty much like, you know, everything that's going, you already have your questions answered. And it's utilizing AI for that is a very powerful thing. I think that's one of the things, and I don't hear too many people talk about it when they're taking a lot of what they've created and putting it back through and seeing what, so you can make sure that you can bring it to new clients, because if someone had it before, they're going to have that question again with somebody else in the future.
100%. And it'll pick up those patterns and stuff a lot quicker. And one other thing in like your industry, I know we talk about multifamily. This is something that we're going to start pushing out more. I've got a lot of friends in the multifamily space. I've invested in syndications, so I know where they stand in that NOI has really got interrupted with insurance and taxes and CapEx and you name it, rents and all. So one of the things that I think is beneficial is some of these multifamilies, if it allows for it, taking maybe 10% of the units. If you have 100 units, maybe take 5 to 10% of those units, turn them into short-term rentals. You already have the staffing there to help with the experience side. We can help out with the revenue side, revenue management side. We could run an analysis to see if we could help you. And just think about it. If you can bump those units up 10 grand each in more revenue, it's 100 grand or more revenue, depending on what your cap rate is on that. You could be talking $1 million plus more in value for that multifamily, while already having a lot of the things in place to be able to give that service. So it's just a unique way to try to help out some multifamily operators.
Yeah, we did that on a property we owned in Phoenix. Maybe it was like 97 or 98 units several years back. And we had like you said, 10% of those units were on short term. The one thing for people listening to this, you have to check with your lender and check with your insurance beforehand. When we refinanced it into a government, an agency loan, right? I think it was Fannie Mae, that they would not allow that back in the time. I don't know if they do now. I doubt as well, but that's just one thing to double check on it. But yes, it was I remember because it killed some of our revenue when we had to do that, when we had to refinance into it. I think the people we sold it to actually took back that model because we showed it to them. You know what I mean? So you already have the amenities there. You're already doing it, and you can put those, you can put them in one certain place of the building or in two different buildings. If it's like, you know what I mean? If there's 5 units of building and you put two buildings of 5 each, and they're in one part of the property away from common 12-month tenants, there's all different ways of doing it, to make it the best experience for both tenants.
No, it's a good point. The lender has to be on board with it, but talk to the lender, or maybe there are lenders out there that will allow it to happen. Yeah.
And if you're thinking about it and you're buying a property, it's probably going to be, your local banks and your local credit unions won't have an issue with it. They usually don't really care unless you pay. That's how I found out over the years. When you start doing with like government agencies and everything like that, they're going to have all their fingers in all these different things that they want you to do and all these requirements. So just keep that in mind, I guess, when you're doing numbers on a property, maybe paying a little bit more for debt. Something like that allows you to open up this STR kind of ability at your property. But Dan, so as kind of we're wrapping up here, I had a couple questions personally. Over your career, over 20 years, nearly 20 years in real estate investing and the business in general, what has compounded the most for you over your career? What have you done that has really compounded and that you are still getting returns from today?
Yeah, and it's something that I had to go back to because I started having shiny object syndrome again as an entrepreneur. You try to do 18 different things, and I mentioned that early on. Whenever I focused in one area and became great at it and then moved to the next area is where I've really compounded my knowledge, my education, my business, my ability to make money. So like in property management, I became one of the top ones in Boston. I ended up going back to Boston. Up in Boston, I can go to any firm I wanted to. And then real estate sales, sold over 400 deals, investor minded, understood that. And then I started to shy away from that and try to do everything. And I was okay to good at it. Now I'm back in. I'm in synergy stays, revenue management optimization partners. And I am here to be great, not just good. And I think that's really compounded the most, as well as the circle you're in, the people you surround yourself with.
Perfect. So Dan, how can our listeners learn more about you and your business?
You can go to synergystayslocal.com. We're happy to take a look at your portfolio. We're happy to just have a chat with you, see if we are the right fit or not. But yeah, synergystayslocal.com.
Dan, thank you so much for coming on today. Looking forward to connecting with you here in the near future.
Yeah, appreciate you, Charles. Thank you.